Have you ever wondered what makes successful people different? Is it luck, talent, or something else? In today's video, we'll explore the real-life stories of 5 famous people who turned failure into success. They started with nothing, no money, no support, and sometimes no hope, but they never gave up. From rejection, poverty, and heartbreak, they rose to greatness. These are not just stories, they are life lessons that will teach you the real meaning of success. So sit back and listen carefully. Your journey to inspiration begins now. If you love learning English through real stories, like, share, and subscribe to Real English Stories. And tell us in the comments, what new words or lessons did you learn today? Number 1. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, California. His birth parents were young college students who couldn't take care of him, so they decided to give him up for adoption. A loving couple named Paul and Clara Jobs adopted him and raised him in a quiet neighborhood in California. Paul was a mechanic and loved to work with machines. From him, Steve learned how to take things apart and put them back together. That's where his curiosity about how things work began. Steve was smart, but not a traditional student. In school, he often got bored. He didn't like rules and didn't always follow them. But he was creative and curious, always asking why things were the way they were. After finishing high school, Steve went to Reed College in Oregon. It was an expensive college, and his parents spent most of their savings to send him there. But soon Steve realized he wasn't learning what really interested him. He didn't want to waste his parents' money, so he made a brave decision. He dropped out of college. It was a scary time. He didn't have a plan or much money. He slept on the floors of his friends' rooms, returned Coke bottles for a few cents, and walked 7 miles every Sunday night to get a free meal at a local temple. But even during that difficult time, Steve never stopped learning. He stayed on campus and attended the classes that truly interested him, like calligraphy. He didn't know it then, but this art of beautiful writing would one day play a big role in Apple's success. A few years later, Steve met another young man named Steve Wozniak. Wozniak was a genius with computers. The two shared a dream to make computers small, personal, and easy to use. In 1976, they started working in Steve Jobs' garage, a small, simple space that would become the birthplace of Apple Computer. They didn't have much money, but they had passion, creativity, and vision. They built the Apple I, their first computer. It was simple, but it worked. They sold it to local computer stores and earned enough to create the next version, Apple II. Apple II became a huge success. Suddenly, Apple was no longer a small garage company, it was one of the fastest-growing companies in the world. Steve Jobs was only 25 years old, but he was already a millionaire. But Steve wasn't just after money. He wanted to create products that would make life better for people. He believed computers should be beautiful, not just useful. He wanted them to be easy to use and designed with love. In 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh, the first computer with a graphical user interface. Instead of typing commands, people could use a mouse and click on icons. It was revolutionary. The Macintosh changed everything. However, success also brought problems. Steve's leadership style was intense. He demanded perfection and pushed people to their limits. Not everyone could handle his personality. In 1985, after a disagreement with Apple's board of directors, Steve Jobs was forced to leave his own company. Imagine that being kicked out of the company you created. It was heartbreaking for him. He later said, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." Why? Because it made him start again, smarter, stronger, and even more creative. After leaving Apple, Steve started a new company called Next. He wanted to build powerful computers for universities and businesses. Next didn't become a big success, but it helped Steve develop new ideas and technologies that would later become very important. At the same time, Steve bought a small computer graphics company from George Lucas. He renamed it Pixar. Pixar went on to create the world's first fully computer-animated movie, Toy Story. The film was a huge success and changed the animation industry forever. So even though Steve was away from Apple, he was still changing the world in different ways. Then, in 1996, something amazing happened. Apple, which was struggling at that time, decided to buy Next, the company Steve had started after leaving Apple. That's how Steve Jobs returned to the company he had once built. When he came back, Apple was in trouble. Its products weren't selling well, and people thought the company might fail. But Steve had a vision. He simplified the product line, made the designs beautiful again, and focused on innovation. In 1998, Apple introduced the iMac, a colorful, all-in-one computer that was fun, friendly, and easy to use. People loved it. It became a bestseller and brought Apple back to life. But Steve wasn't done. He believed that technology should fit naturally into people's lives. So he and his team started working on new ideas. In 2001, Apple introduced the iPod, a small music player that could hold thousands of songs. It was simple, elegant, and changed the way people listen to music. Then came iTunes, which allowed people to buy and organize their music easily. In 2007, Apple launched the iPhone, a phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator all in one. No one had ever seen anything like it before. The iPhone changed the world of technology, communication, and entertainment. In 2010, Apple introduced the iPad, another groundbreaking invention that changed how people worked and played. Each of these products had one thing in common: they were designed with love, simplicity, and beauty. Steve Jobs once said, "Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works." Under Steve's leadership, Apple became one of the most valuable companies in the world. But more importantly, it became a brand that people trusted and loved. However, behind all the success, Steve was fighting a personal battle. In 2003, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He continued to work as long as he could, leading Apple with the same energy and vision. Even as his health declined, he never stopped thinking about the future. In 2011, just months before his passing, he stepped down as Apple's CEO but remained as the chairman of the board. Steve Jobs passed away on October 5, 2011, at the age of 56. The world mourned the loss of a true visionary. But his legacy lives on. Every time you use an iPhone, a MacBook, or watch a Pixar movie, you are experiencing the magic that Steve Jobs helped create. He taught us that success doesn't always follow a straight path. Sometimes life's hardest moments lead to our greatest achievements. Steve once said in his famous Stanford speech, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." His story reminds us to follow our passions, trust our instincts, and believe that the dots of life will connect someday. Steve Jobs didn't just build computers, he built dreams. He built the future. And it all started with a college dropout who believed he could change the world. Number 2. Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo was born on February 5, 1985, on a small island called Madeira in Portugal. His full name is Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro. His family was very poor. His father worked as a gardener and part-time kitman for a local football club, and his mother worked as a cook and cleaner. They lived in a small house, but they were full of love and hope. From a very young age, Ronaldo was different, full of energy, always running and always kicking something like a ball. At just 3 years old, he started playing football in the streets. He didn't have real footballs or fancy shoes. Sometimes he played with old bottles or paper balls. But his love for football was real. Every day after school, he ran to the local field to play. He often played with older boys who were bigger than him, but he never gave up. His mother said he even slept with a football beside him. Football wasn't just a game for Ronaldo, it was his life. At the age of 8, Ronaldo joined a small club called Andorinha, where his father worked. Everyone noticed his amazing talent. He was small but fast and very focused. Later, he moved to a bigger club called Nacional, and soon after, he got a chance to join one of Portugal's best clubs, Sporting Lisbon. He was only 12 years old. It was a dream come true, but also very hard. His family couldn't move with him, and he had to live alone far from home. He missed his parents and cried many nights, but he told himself, "I must make my family proud." Life in Lisbon was tough. He lived in a small room with other boys, had little food, and people at school made fun of him for his accent and poor background. One day, a teacher insulted him, and angry Ronaldo threw a chair. He was expelled from school but decided to focus fully on football. He told his mother, "I want to be a football player." "I will work hard." His mother believed in him and told him to follow his dream. At 15, Ronaldo faced a big challenge. He was diagnosed with a heart problem, and doctors said he might have to stop playing football forever. It was heartbreaking, but he didn't give up. He had surgery, and just days later, he was back in training. His determination surprised everyone. Nothing could stop him. At 16, Ronaldo was already standing out. In 2002, when he was 17, he played his first professional match for Sporting Lisbon and scored 2 goals. Everyone was amazed. In 2003, Sporting played a friendly match against Manchester United. Ronaldo's incredible performance caught everyone's attention. After the match, Manchester United's coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, decided to sign him for £12 million, a record for a teenager. Ronaldo was only 18 when he moved to England, starting a new chapter of his life. Life in England was not easy. He didn't speak English well, and everything felt new and cold. But he worked harder than anyone else. He stayed after training to practice and improve. In his first season, he helped Manchester United win the FA Cup. Fans loved his speed, tricks, and dedication. Over the next few years, Ronaldo became one of the best players in the world. In 2008, he won his first Ballon d'Or, the award for the best footballer in the world. From a poor boy in Madeira to the world's best player, it was a dream come true. In 2009, he joined Real Madrid for a record fee of €94 million. Many said the price was too high, But Ronaldo quickly proved them wrong. He became the star of the team, scoring goals in almost every match. He broke countless records and won many trophies, including 4 Champions League titles and 4 more Ballon d'Or awards. He became Real Madrid's all-time top scorer and one of football's greatest legends. Yet he never forgot where he came from. "I came from nothing, but I never stopped believing," he often said. Ronaldo's journey was never without struggle. He faced criticism, tough games, injuries, and personal challenges. But each time, he came back stronger. In 2016, he made his country proud by leading Portugal to win the European Championship, their first major international title. Even though he was injured during the final, he stood on the sidelines, shouting and motivating his teammates. When Portugal won, Ronaldo cried with joy. That day, he proved that he was not just a great player, but also a true leader. After his time at Real Madrid, Ronaldo continued to shine at Juventus, then returned to Manchester United, and later joined Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Everywhere he went, he gave his best. He became the highest goal scorer in football history and an example of hard work, focus, and discipline. Beyond football, Ronaldo is also known for his kindness. He donates millions to hospitals and helps sick children and poor families. He never forgets his humble beginnings. "We should use our success to make the world a better place," he once said. Cristiano Ronaldo's story teaches us that success doesn't come from luck. It comes from effort, belief, and never giving up. He failed, struggled, and cried, but he never stopped working. From a small boy kicking paper balls on the streets of Madeira to one of the greatest athletes in the world, Ronaldo's journey is proof that nothing is impossible if you believe in yourself. Number 3. J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling's full name is Joanne Rowling. She was born on July 31, 1965 in Yate, England. Her family was simple and not rich, but they loved each other. From the time she was a little girl, Joanne loved reading and writing. When she was only 6 years old, she wrote her first story about a rabbit. She loved creating magical worlds filled with adventure. Her parents thought writing was just a hobby, but Joanne secretly dreamed of becoming a writer one day. As she grew up, life became more difficult. Her mother was sick for many years, and she did not get along well with her father. Books became her best friends. She would spend hours reading and imagining other worlds. After finishing school, she studied French at the University of Exeter because her parents wanted her to have a safe job. But even at university, she never stopped writing stories. After graduation, she worked as a secretary in London. But her heart was never in her job. One day, while traveling by train in 1990, an idea came to her mind, the story of a young boy who didn't know he was a wizard. She saw him clearly in her imagination: messy black hair, glasses, and a lightning scar. His name was Harry Potter. From that day, she began writing his story by hand on paper. But soon after, tragedy struck. Her mother passed away after a long illness. Joanne was deeply heartbroken. She felt lost and lonely, but she poured all her sadness into her writing. The pain of losing her mother became part of Harry Potter's story, the story of a boy who lost his parents but found hope and courage. Later, Joanne moved to Portugal to teach English. She married a man there and had a daughter named Jessica. But her marriage did not last, and she returned to Scotland alone with her baby. She was poor, unemployed, and heartbroken again. She lived in a small apartment and sometimes could not even afford food. She once said, "I was the biggest failure I knew." But even then, she refused to give up on her dream. Every day she took her baby in a stroller to a nearby cafe, where she wrote while her daughter slept beside her. It was cold, and she could only afford 1 cup of coffee. The cafe workers called her the woman who writes all day. In those cafes, she built the world of Hogwarts, a school full of friendship, courage, and magic. Writing gave her strength when everything else was falling apart. After many years, she finally finished her first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. She was proud and excited, but when she sent it to publishers, rejection after rejection came. 12 publishers said no. They told her the book was too long, too strange, or not interesting enough. Each rejection hurt deeply. But Rowling didn't quit. She said, "I had nothing to lose and everything to gain." So she tried again, one last time. Then something magical happened. A small publisher called Bloomsbury decided to give her a chance because the chairman's 8-year-old daughter loved the first chapter. In 1997, the book was finally published, only 500 copies at first. Joanne earned a very small payment, but the story soon captured hearts all over the world. Children and adults loved it. They laughed, cried, and dreamed with Harry Potter. The book became a massive success, and soon sequels followed. J.K. Rowling, once poor and hopeless, became one of the most famous authors in the world. The Harry Potter series sold over 500 million copies, translated into 80 languages, and became blockbuster movies. She became the first billionaire author in history. But fame didn't change her heart. She gave millions to charity, helping poor families and single parents like she once was. Her journey is not only about success, it's about never giving up. She once said, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so carefully that you might as well not have lived at all." Those words come from her own experience. Rejection and pain made her stronger. She proved that failure is not the end, it's part of the path to success. Rowling's life reminds us that our darkest moments can become the start of something beautiful. She wrote Harry Potter when she had nothing, no money, no job, only a dream. But that dream changed her life and inspired millions of people around the world. She showed that when you keep believing, keep working, and refuse to quit, magic happens not with wands, but with courage. Today, J.K. Rowling is more than a writer. She is a symbol of hope. She teaches us that failure is not the opposite of success, it is the bridge to it. Those 12 rejections were not defeats, they were steps that led her to her destiny. Her story reminds us that success belongs to those who don't stop trying, even when the world says no. So whenever you feel like giving up, remember J.K. Rowling, the woman who wrote in cafes with her baby beside her, who turned her pain into power and her dreams into magic. Her story proves that even when life feels impossible, you can rise again and create your own magic. Number 4. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a small log cabin in Kentucky, USA. His family was very poor. They didn't have books, electricity, or fine clothes. His father, Thomas Lincoln, worked as a farmer, and his mother, Nancy, cared for the home. When Lincoln was 9, his mother died, and it broke his heart. Life was hard, but he learned how to stay strong even in pain. His stepmother, Sarah, encouraged him to read, and books became his best friends. Lincoln had less than 1 year of formal education, but he loved learning. He borrowed books from neighbors and read by candlelight late into the night. People called him the boy who reads. He studied the Bible, Aesop's fables, and anything that could help him understand life better. This love for reading shaped his mind and character. As a young man, Lincoln worked on farms, split wood, and did simple jobs to help his family. He had no money or special education, but he had determination. He dreamed of doing something meaningful for others. When he was 22, he tried to start a small store, but the business failed. He lost everything and went into debt. Still, he didn't give up. He said, "My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure." He saw failure as a lesson, not the end. Later, he entered politics. In 1832, he ran for a seat in the Illinois state legislature but lost. It was his first political defeat. Afterward, he joined the army for a short time and then decided to study law. Since he couldn't afford school, he taught himself by reading borrowed law books. Slowly, he became a lawyer, known for his honesty and fairness. People began to call him Honest Abe. Even as a lawyer, life wasn't easy. He failed in business again, lost people he loved, and faced heartbreak. When the woman he loved, Anne Rutledge, died, Lincoln was deeply depressed. But he still kept moving forward. He passed the bar exam in 1836 and won his first election that same year. It was a small victory after many disappointments, but it changed his life. Lincoln became respected for his simple, truthful way of speaking. He didn't use fancy words, he spoke from the heart. His speeches were clear, honest, and full of wisdom. People listened because he understood their struggles. But even then, he kept facing losses. He ran for Congress in 1843 and lost. He tried again in 1848 and won. But after one term, he wasn't re-elected. He ran for the US Senate twice and lost both times. Most people would have quit, but Lincoln didn't. He said, "I will prepare myself, and someday my chance will come." By the late 1850s, the United States was divided over slavery. Lincoln believed slavery was wrong. His speeches about freedom and equality began to get national attention. In 1860, he decided to run for president. Many people laughed at him. They said he was too poor, too simple, and too uneducated. But Lincoln didn't care what others said. He had lost so many times before that he was not afraid to try again. This time, he won. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States. The poor boy from a log cabin was now leading an entire nation. But soon, America fell into a terrible civil war between the North and the South. The country was divided, and Lincoln faced the hardest test of his life. Many people hated him. He received threats and harsh criticism, but he never gave up. He believed that the United States must stay united and that slavery must end. In 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, the law that freed enslaved people in America. It was one of the greatest acts in history. Lincoln showed the world that true leadership means doing what is right, even when it's difficult. After years of war, Lincoln's patience and courage paid off. In 1865, the Civil War ended, slavery was abolished, and the nation was saved. The people saw him not just as a leader, but as a hero who brought hope and unity. Sadly, just a few days after the war ended, Lincoln was shot and killed. The whole nation mourned him deeply. He died, but his spirit lived on forever. Abraham Lincoln's life teaches us that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. He failed in business, lost elections, and faced heartbreak. But he never stopped trying. Each failure made him stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. His story shows that your past does not define your future, your courage and persistence do. Lincoln once said, "Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm." His life is proof of that truth. From a poor boy reading by candlelight to the president who ended slavery, Abraham Lincoln's story inspires us to believe in ourselves, work hard, and never give up no matter how many times we fail. So, whenever you feel hopeless, remember Abraham Lincoln, the man who lost again and again, but still changed the world through honesty, kindness, and determination. Number 5. Jack Ma. Jack Ma was born on September 10, 1964, in Hangzhou, a small city in China. His family lived a simple and humble life. They didn't have much money, and life was often difficult. His parents worked as traditional musicians and storytellers, earning just enough to survive. But Jack was a curious and energetic boy. He liked asking questions, learning new things, and talking to people. Even though he was not a top student, he always wanted to improve himself. He failed his primary school exams twice and his middle school exams 3 times, but he never gave up. He believed that success comes to those who keep trying, no matter how many times they fail. When Jack was a teenager, China started opening up to the world, and tourists from different countries began visiting his hometown, Hangzhou. Jack saw an opportunity. Every morning, he rode his bicycle to hotels where foreigners stayed, offering to guide them around the city for free. He didn't do it for money, he did it to learn English. He practiced speaking every day, asking questions and learning from conversations. Over time, he became fluent in English without ever leaving China. One of the foreigners he met gave him the English name Jack. These early experiences opened his mind and taught him about the world beyond China. However, Jack's school journey continued to be full of failures. After finishing high school, he applied to college but failed the entrance exam twice. On his 3rd attempt, he finally passed and got admitted to Hangzhou Normal University, where he studied English. After graduating in 1988, he started looking for jobs, but that turned out to be another challenge. Jack applied for 30 different jobs, and every single one rejected him. He tried to join the police force, but they said he wasn't suitable. He applied for a job at a hotel, but they said no. When KFC opened in China, 24 people applied for jobs, 23 were accepted, and only 1 was rejected. That one person was Jack Ma. Most people would have felt hopeless after so many rejections, but Jack didn't. He said, "When people reject you, learn from it." Instead of feeling defeated, he used rejection as motivation to grow stronger. Finally, he got a small job as an English teacher at a local university. He earned only about $12 a month, but he loved teaching. He enjoyed helping students learn English and inspiring them to believe in themselves. For Jack, teaching wasn't about money, it was about making a difference. Then, in 1995, something happened that changed his life forever. Jack visited the United States as an interpreter. During that trip, a friend introduced him to something called the Internet. It was his first time seeing a computer connected to the web. Out of curiosity, he searched for the word beer and found results from many countries, but none from China. Then he searched for China and again found nothing. That moment gave him a powerful idea. He realized that China had no presence on the Internet, and that could be a huge opportunity. When he returned home, Jack told his friends about the Internet and how it could connect Chinese businesses to the world. Most people thought he was crazy. Hardly anyone in China knew what the Internet was back then. But Jack believed in his vision. He started his first company called China Pages to help businesses create websites. The idea was ahead of its time, and people didn't understand it. The company failed, and Jack lost money. But he didn't stop. He said, "If you don't give up, you still have a chance." Giving up is the greatest failure. 4 years later, in 1999, Jack invited 17 friends to his small apartment in Hangzhou. He shared his dream of creating an online platform where small businesses could sell their products to buyers around the world. He called it Alibaba. The name came from the story Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Jack liked it because, just like in the story, he wanted to help small business owners discover their hidden treasures through the Internet. Everyone in that room believed in him. They invested their savings and started Alibaba together. They had no experience, no fancy office, and no financial support, only a dream and determination. The beginning was very hard. For years, Alibaba didn't make any profit. They struggled to pay the bills. Jack often told his team, "Don't complain. Look for opportunities." He motivated them to keep going, no matter how tough things became. Eventually, their hard work started paying off. More businesses began using Alibaba to connect with international buyers. Slowly, the platform grew. In 1999, a big US investment company gave Alibaba $25 million, a life-changing investment that helped the company expand. It was the turning point for Jack and his team. Over the next few years, Alibaba became one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in China. Jack didn't stop there. He created Taobao, a shopping website similar to eBay, and Alipay, an online payment system like PayPal. When eBay tried to enter the Chinese market, many thought Alibaba would lose. But Jack said, "eBay is a shark in the ocean. We are a crocodile in the Yangtze River. If we fight in the ocean, we'll lose. But if we fight in the river, we'll win." He was right. Alibaba knew China's market better and eventually beat eBay. By 2014, Alibaba became one of the most valuable companies in the world when it went public on the New York Stock Exchange. It was the largest IPO in history at that time. The man who had been rejected 30 times was now one of the richest people in China, worth billions of dollars. But Jack never forgot where he came from. He often said, "We don't want to be the richest people in the world. We want to be the most respected." He believed success was not about money, but about making a positive impact. He encouraged young people to dream big, stay positive, and never stop learning. Jack Ma's story teaches us that success is not about being the smartest person, it's about being the most persistent one. He failed in school, got rejected from jobs, and faced countless challenges. Yet he kept going. Every failure became a lesson, every rejection a motivation, and every challenge a new opportunity. He taught people that life will test you again and again. The world will say no many times before it finally says yes. But if you keep believing,